A stone sits on a mountain. It has no parent, no teacher, no army, no kingdom. Then it breaks open, and out comes a monkey who will steal peaches from heaven, challenge an emperor, survive a furnace, and spend centuries becoming one of the most recognizable rebels in Asian storytelling. Sun Wukong is not a historical person. No archive can tell us where he was born because he was born in fiction. But the question behind him is real enough to have divided some of China's most important modern scholars. Where did this monkey come from? One answer points west, toward an Indian monkey god who crossed an ocean for a prince. Another points inward, to a Chinese water creature chained beneath a mountain. Both answers contain details that feel impossible to ignore. Neither can produce the one thing a courtroom wants, a witness who saw the novelist build Sun Wukong. That absence matters. A familiar face can make us feel that an origin is obvious, and stories are very good at rewarding that feeling. But a resemblance can be a clue, a coincidence, a shared inheritance, or a later writer choosing exactly the feature that will make a character impossible to forget. The danger is not that these theories are foolish. The danger is that a beautiful theory can become so satisfying that we stop asking what it actually proves. That is the case tonight. Not the true story of black myth, Wukong, and not a claim that one legend secretly happened. This is the true legend behind the Monkey King, the real texts, real roots, and real argument over what older stories might be hiding inside the stone. The first witness does not arrive quietly. Hanuman, the monkey hero of the Ramayana, can change size, leap impossible distances, and turn loyalty into force. In the epic, he serves Rama, searches across the sea for Sita, enters an enemy city, and makes his body and courage larger than the world around him. Long before Journey to the West was written, he was already one of South Asia's great monkey heroes. In 1923, the Chinese scholar Lu Xun looked at this figure and became suspicious. Sun Wukong, he argued, did not feel entirely homegrown. Lu Xun proposed that the Monkey King might have been shaped by an Indian import, and that Hanuman was the shadow behind him. The comparison is easy to feel. Both are superhuman monkeys. Both travel with a sacred mission. Both are quick, defiant, magical, and capable of making vast distances look small. And both can turn a physical obstacle into a test of personality. The sea, the mountain, the heavenly court, the distance between duty and desire. The visual resemblance matters because it gives a reader a jolt of recognition. But character is where the comparison starts to slip. The two heroes are powered by different moral engines, and a later novelist could recognize a useful shape while changing the reason it moves. But similarity is the prosecution's first exhibit, not its final proof. Sun Wukong is not Hanuman wearing a different hat. Hanuman's power is tied to devotion. Sun Wukong begins by refusing every authority he can find. One leaps for a prince. The other storms heaven because he cannot bear to be assigned a stable. One makes service magnificent. The other makes rebellion magnificent before a long discipline changes him. The resemblance is real. So is the distance between them. Lu Xun's theory needed a road. It is not absurd to look for one. For centuries, people, languages, religious stories, goods, and images moved between India, Central Asia, and Chinese cities. Buddhist translation did not happen in an empty room. Monks, merchants, pilgrims, and interpreters carried texts and habits of imagination across dangerous distances. A monkey hero could travel as an image before it ever arrived as a neatly translated plot. A performance can leave no surviving script. A borrowed image can acquire a local name so completely that later readers no longer recognize the journey it made. But possibility is not a passport stamp. A road can explain how influence might travel. It cannot prove that one specific tale entered one specific writer's desk and became one specific character. That missing link matters. We would need a much tighter chain, a recognizable intermediary, a dated version, a trace of transmission, or evidence that a particular storyteller knew it. None of that has been securely placed on the table. This is where an attractive theory becomes a hard historical question. A pilgrimage route can show that texts, performers, and images had ways to meet. It cannot tell us which version of a story was heard, remembered, or transformed at each stop. The Ramayana has many versions. Stories change each time they cross a language and a performance tradition. Journey to the West also gathers material from pilgrimage lore, religious satire, demon tales, and comic invention. The farther we stand from the final novel, the easier it is to mistake a shared shape for a direct bloodline. So the Hanuman theory remains powerful but exposed. It gives us a horizon, a route, and a family resemblance. It does not give us a signed receipt. The second witness is wading in Chinese water. His name is Wuzhiqi, an ape-like water being in older Chinese story traditions. He is not introduced with a heroic leap. He is a problem in a river, violent, powerful, difficult to contain. In accounts associated with the Huai River, tradition says the flood-taming ruler Yu captures him, binds him with iron, and confines him beneath a mountain. That is the moment the case becomes uncomfortable for anyone who wants a simple answer. A powerful ape, water thrown into chaos, iron chains, a mountain prison. Soon Wukong is not merely a mischievous monkey. He too is violent, superhuman, and finally trapped beneath a mountain after defying the order above him. Lu Xun made this connection central to an indigenous Chinese origin theory. Where Hu Shi saw an import from India, Lu Xun saw a local ancestor already moving through Chinese myth. This witness has something Hanuman does not. The chain and the mountain are not just moods. They look like plot machinery. The scene asks a sharper question than resemblance alone. Why did a later monkey hero need the same kind of confinement? And why is escape from that confinement so important to the drama that follows? The local theory has its own missing bridge, though. A recurring image in a myth tradition is not a document showing that it was copied into the novel. Yet Wuzhiqi is also not Sun Wukong. He is a water demon in a different story world, not a pilgrim's companion with a staff and a comic voice. He may explain an important fragment. A fragment is not the whole monkey. Put the two witnesses beside each other, and the temptation is to force a verdict. Hanuman offers the monkey hero miracle travel and an Indian epic older than the novel. Wuzhiqi offers the Chinese water creature, the iron restraint, and the mountain confinement. One seems to explain why the Monkey King moves. The other seems to explain why he must be pinned down. But legends do not behave like fingerprints. A later writer can borrow a scene, inherit a local demon, hear a religious story, and still make something neither source predicted. There is also a practical problem. The evidence belongs to genres that operate differently. An epic hero, a river tradition, a pilgrimage story, and a late novel do not preserve their history in the same way. Matching one dramatic image across them can be illuminating. It can also be exactly how a modern reader accidentally invents a family tree. A good comparison, therefore, has to leave space around its answer. It has to say which feature it is comparing, what date and root are known, and what cannot be recovered from the surviving record. The strongest version of Hu Shi's theory is not that every feature of Sun Wukong came from Hanuman. It is that Indian narrative material may have helped make a monkey hero imaginable in new ways. The strongest version of Lu Xun's theory is not that Wuzhiqi is secretly Sun Wukong under another name. It is that Chinese myth already contained an ape-like, unruly being whose captivity under a mountain resonates with the novel. Each theory becomes weaker when it claims everything. Each becomes more useful when it admits it is holding one side of a larger object. Now white in the room, the stories did not live in sealed national boxes. India, Central Asia, and China were connected by more than a single road, and the traffic was never only religious doctrine. A tale could be translated, retold, performed, misheard, shortened, or fused with a local spirit nobody in the next city recognized. From India through Central Asia toward Tang China, routes carried travelers and texts. Later Chinese storytellers inherited a crowded imaginative world, not a clean library shelf. The route was not a pipe that delivered a finished character. It was a field of encounters, with gaps, detours, losses, and people who chose what to repeat. A translator's choice, a performer's joke, or a local audience's appetite for a trickster can redirect a story just as surely as a border crossing. That does not settle the Sun Wukong debate. It changes what a fair question sounds like. Instead of asking, did one culture own the Monkey King before another took him, we can ask what kinds of contact made mixtures possible. The answer is uncomfortable for anyone who wants a pure origin. It also keeps a useful distinction alive. A historical field of contact is evidence of opportunity, while a direct descent claim needs evidence of transmission. The first is broad and visible. The second is narrow, fragile, and often missing. Between those two claims is the real work, comparing dates, genres, roots, and surviving texts without asking an appealing image to carry more history than it can bear. In Journey to the West, the hero arrives late, after centuries of travel, translation, local myth-making, and performance. A direct line may be impossible to draw. But the tangled field around that line is historical. It is the real world that made a character like him conceivable. There is one witness both camps need, and he never speaks under oath. The author of Journey to the West, or the circle of storytellers and traditions from which the novel emerged, did not leave us a note saying, "I took this from Hanuman," or "I rebuilt Wuzhiqi." The novel itself is our closest evidence, and it behaves like a masterful liar. It lets Sun Wukong resemble older figures without becoming reducible to them. He is stone-born, animal, rebel, disciple, comedian, weapon, prisoner, and protector. He can be irreverent because the novel needs irreverence. He can be disciplined because the pilgrimage needs discipline. He can make a prison under a mountain feel like punishment, comedy, and the beginning of a spiritual education at the same time. That transformation is the novelist's real alchemy. It is also the point where origin hunting has to slow down. A source can contribute an image. It cannot automatically explain the emotional machine built around that image. The decisive act may be neither borrowing nor inheritance, but selection, choosing which old elements will collide and giving their collision a new moral and comic purpose. That is why the argument survives. If he were only an imported monkey god, the Chinese water evidence would feel unnecessary. If he were only a local water demon, the broader world of Indian monkey stories would be easier to dismiss. Instead, the Monkey King seems built at an intersection, not a proof of one civilization defeating another, but a literary invention large enough to make inherited materials argue inside him. So where did Sun Wukong come from? Who sure gave us a Western-looking shadow? Hanuman, the monkey hero whose leaps and impossible service make the comparison hard to forget. Lu Xun gave us a Chinese figure in the water, Wuzhiqi, chained and buried beneath a mountain, with an echo that feels equally hard to ignore. The roads between cultures were real. The Chinese myth was real. The Indian epic was real. The final proof of a single origin is not. That is not a weakness to hide behind. It is the reason the Monkey King keeps escaping every cage built for him. The honest answer is not that the case is solved. It is that the case has taught us how unusually ambitious the final character is. He can carry a leap across an ocean, a chain under a mountain, a Buddhist pilgrimage, a joke at heaven's expense, and the stubborn pleasure of refusing to stay in one assigned role. That is why this uncertainty is more than a footnote for fans. It is a way of reading the character at full scale. Each proposed ancestor highlights a different pressure inside him, but none can close the case by itself. We do not need to turn uncertainty into emptiness. We can name the real traditions, respect the differences between them, and let the unanswered connection remain unanswered. The argument remains valuable precisely because it rewards better questions over a convenient final answer and keeps the imagination historically honest. Black myth. Wukong can make him feel immediate again, all stone dust, rage, and motion. Journey to the West made him immortal in words. But behind both stands a stranger truth. The most famous monkey in Chinese fiction may not belong to one road, one river, or one ancestor. He may be what happens when stories travel far enough to forget the border where they began. And somewhere beneath a mountain and beside a moving river, the stone is still waiting to open.